that's what the Bible points out. That's what a lot of these traditions point out. It's this idea of believe, you know, we're not called we're called to Jesus says, believe that you, when you pray, which, what is prayer? Prayer is just, a petition. It's communication. It's intention, really. It's this is what I want, right? This is my prayer. But when you pray, believe you receive it, and it's yours, is what he, and you're not, it's not, you're not called to believe you have it, which is what I've said in the past, oh, well, and it's a subtle distinction that I still try to work on, but it's, you have to believe that this very act of believing that I have it is what actually gives it to me. So I don't believe that I have it, but I believe that the fact that I did this intention is enough. Just by deciding, by saying, this is mine, I want this, I choose this with intention, that's enough to actually somehow, in some way that I don't understand, make it occur in this world. And I am personally convinced that is the way everything works. Like, that we are just out picturing ourselves daily. And we just don't realize it because so much of it is just background autopilot stuff. And when we do get, and again, I kind of view this, the whole Jezebel spirit, this idea, it's just a pendulum, right? It's designed to keep the status quo. It's designed to prevent fear. Even just noticing the way that, if we look at the facts of Jezebel, right? She was a foreign queen who was aggressive, pushed her husband to take what he wanted, to be the king that he said he was. That's she defended her religion. The thing she believed in when her prophets were murdered, she got angry about that. There's no mention in the Bible of Jezebel being sexual in any way, shape, or form. She is not sexualized. They don't talk about deviance or she didn't have an affair. She didn't seduce somebody. There's no evidence that she was ever even promiscuous or of any of that. But her name became, synonymous essentially with sexual immorality and danger. And there's nothing that was even there. When women wield power that is visible, that men can see, patriarchal societies have to reach, their playbook. It's a very simple playbook. Sexualized, make it a sexual issue. Because again, men are I'm convinced afraid of women sexually, just in general. Like, there is this weird, Jungian sort of cultural fear of men, that men have of women in general. Instead of confronting a woman's leadership or her competence, and actually have and we see this with AOC today. We see this with Kamala. Like rather than talk about their competence, how do folks attack AOC? Well, oh, she's a bartender. It's constantly denigrating her, turning her in, using sexual slander. Call her a slut. Call her a whore. Oh, she's just a bartender. All of these names, and this is designed to. You don't have to listen to what she says. It doesn't matter what she says, right? Because it discredits her authority and makes her power seem illegitimate, seem dangerous even. This is a textbook case to me. This is the legacy of Jezebel, of how female authority is undermined through sexual defamation, which is still used to control. What's the first insult? She slept her way to the top.
Yep.
Right?
Well, and
how often do you hear that?
I think it's also fascinating how it's not just defamation, but also like a good aspect of sexuality being ascribed to women is also just as damaging. If I had a nickel for every conversation, for all the times that in a conversation AOC comes up and I hear a paraphrasing some sort of version of, I hate what she has to say, but she's hot. She's got a great ass. How dare you? How dare you? She is beautiful. She is a beautiful, beautiful woman and a beautiful human, but not just for the way she looks, for the way that she fights and loves fiercely. And it's like, not only is there this, oh, she's a slut, she's a whore, she slept her way to the top, which of course is the refrain for Kamala, but this also like, yeah, you should feel bad for being sexual, but also the only good thing you have to offer is sexual too.
Right.
Like, how is it both at the same time?
It's a classic double bind, right? Like, Yeah. It's so, to me, it's really, it's just indicative of sort of that no-win situation. And I mean, we even see, Jezebel is used in the New Testament in Revelation to again talk about a woman in Revelation. So even as early as 100 Common Era, when Revelation was probably written somewhere around the early, around 100 CE. It's already this story being weaponized against outspoken women. In the American South, I think another example. The Jezebel stereotype was just was used to justify the sexual exploitation of black women during slavery. And just how enduring this insult is shows how our society recycles these tropes, these misogynistic, incorrect tropes to control women,
Yeah.
particularly women of color, but I think women in general, by
Yeah.
branding them as inherently deviant or threatening or minimizing them, either boiling down their sexuality to they're not attractive, or the only thing good about them is that they are attractive, as you pointed out.
Right.
Like, so the insult goes both ways. Oh,
Yeah.
well, the only thing good about you is you got a great body, versus, oh, you're, oh, look at that, she's ugly. She's, I wouldn't talk. I mean, such terrible. I mean, we that doesn't men don't experience that
Yeah.
in the same way. Period. Full stop. I don't know a way in which, I mean, listen, I mean, we all get minimized in
In
certain
different
ways.
ways. Yeah.
So it's not to say this is better, but what we're talking about with this the
Yeah.
Jezebel idea, the Jezebel spirit, where it lands today. So that's what we're here talking about.
Right.
And I don't know, just the idea that I feel like she would be horrified to know that her name was used to justify, you know, the sexual abuse of women in the South. I mean, I
I
can't
do
imagine
wonder.
how awful.
Yeah, yeah. I do wonder if Jezebel verses are in the slave Bible or not. For those that may not be
Hmm.
familiar, there is a version of the Bible that cut out certain um, verses and passages and books to give to enslaved people, so that they wouldn't get any wrong ideas about their station in life. Which is just atrocious and horrible in so many innumerable ways. Um, so that's just something that pops in my head that I think is fascinating. I wonder, because also in the Old Testament, there are so many verses that the God of the Old Testament, call it Yahweh, as a lot of evangelical Christians like to do to try and separate it from their God that they worship today, but where God literally commands genocide and commands slavery, gives blatant instructions about how to enslave people. Um, and so I don't know, that's just something that's kind of popped up. Other thing about what you said that I want to add to is the idea that like black trans women disproportionately have the most violence enacted against them physically in America of any demographic. It is black trans women. And I think the um, sexual nature of being a transgender person, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what I want to say about it. I think it's interesting because it almost makes someone else so uncomfortable to see someone living out their truth in this way that is deeply about their physicality, that must be tied to this hatred of it, which is horrible and horrifying to see. But I don't know. I am clearly not an expert on this issue, and I don't want to speak out of turn. Or give explanations for something that shouldn't need to be explained because it shouldn't be happening at all. But yeah, I just want to honor the violence that is done against women of color and queer women too. I think that's a really great point that you raised, that we should be thinking about, and knowing that Jezebel was a woman of color, right? That, I mean, pretty much all of the people in the Bible were, but it's an interesting through line. Um, I don't know if she would necessarily be a different like visual color than other people, but she certainly was considered of a different race um, than the people that she was queen to.
Yeah, she was foreign, right? I mean, in addition to being a woman, so two strikes, right? Uh, if not more, and again, I do think another point is that and we've said it before on this show is history is written by the winners, and the fact is that the patriarchy was the one writing the Hebrew text. The Yahwehists, or were ultimately what's in the Bible, and so um so why would they what are the lessons maybe that the writers even intended from this story is another way for us to think about it, and certainly um certainly this was not objective. Nothing in the Bible I think is objective history. I think that's the first thing to if it is history at all, it's not at all clear to me that it is in fact history. I tend to think of the Bible more allegorical anyway, just in general. But in this case, let's forget all of that and just say, what might they have been saying? Well, you could definitely, um, you could definitely talk about the fact that she was a foreign queen, again, remember the Bible didn't even call her queen, but she was foreign, and you could think of it maybe as a cautionary tale around the dangers of foreign influence. But to me, it's very clear it was never meant to be just the facts, right? It was written by the winners with an agenda, and part of that agenda, there may have been multiple. I'm not here to say this was all of it. This was the only thing they were looking to do, but there's clearly an agenda to demonize a powerful woman and to justify why you need men in charge, why there needs to be patriarchal control. um, and I think this is something we're going to see. We've already talked about with Mary. We've talked about it, I think, with the Sublime and these other things, how a lot of these stories that we inherit about dangerous women reflect the anxieties of those who are in power, and not the actual reality of life, or the truth, or even necessarily what actually happened. And I think it's just important to always keep that in mind as we explore these stories. Like what truly what's the meaning here? And then what do we choose? What meaning do we choose to take from it?
Yeah. One question that popped up a little bit ago that I think is really relevant to what you're saying now is or that popped up for me is, why do you think that the narrative has continued in this way? Like, I think your point is so well taken that uh the Bible was written to communicate a message, right? Whether or not there are historical accuracies in it, like how many biopics have we seen, that are deeply that reflect real history but aren't about the history. It's about the magical nature of these figures and what comes out of that, the lessons that we can learn. So I totally agree. Like, remove any idea of history from it. Why was it even written? Why do you think it has evolved in such a way? Like, what was the inciting moment that it perhaps transitioned from being a cautionary tale about foreign influence, or um, a cautionary tale about Baal, into, or like idolatry of other gods, I suppose, influencing your tribe, into a cautionary tale about strong women? What is the tipping point there? And I think, of course, it's a spectrum. There's probably no one moment we can point to, but I'm curious your thoughts on that kind of inflection point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so not all powerful women in the Bible were demonized. So that would be a starting point for me. So okay, like what are some examples? Well, Deborah, a judge and a prophetess, was celebrated for saving Israel. Esther was also generally considered although the name of God is never is not mentioned in Esther. It's, I think, the only book in the Old Testament that does not have God's name written in it. But nevertheless, I mean, Esther was celebrated um, as as a woman who worked was saved Israel. You have Purim and all of that. You have Purim. You have I mean even we talked about it a few weeks ago with Mary, right? The mother of Jesus's mother. Why was she revered? Because she was she listened. She was obedient. She said yes, basically. So what do I see as the message is this idea of you know it's okay for women to have a voice as long as they do it the right way. So Jezebel demonized because she worked openly for her own gods and power and was destroyed. Esther worked within the system to save her people and was celebrated. So it's not to me it's not what women do, but who they serve and how they fit into the order of the time, the male dominated order, I might add, of the time.
Right.
That's what determines whether they're hailed as a heroine, as a hero, or whether they're hated and vilified as a harpy.
Play the make
You know,
believe right.
yeah. They're basically saying this is the make believe. This is what the make believe, the things we've made up actually say. This is, and here's proof, because this is what but what is it? Patriotic, all of these patriarchal, these man-centered narratives, they always rely. I mean, here's the common theme: they reward compliance and punish defiance. Jezebel, her blood was licked up by the dogs, and it's a cautionary tale to me that shows exactly what will happen to a woman who refuses to play by the rules. Whether it's burning at the stake, drowning as a witch, whatever it is, it's whether it's vilified, whether it's the dogs licking your blood from the base of the tower that you fell from. Like, you step out of line, this is what happens to women who get go beyond their station. If it's okay if you're serving a purpose, but it better be within these rules, and you better know who's boss. Like, you can only go so far.